Clarity is key,
Yeah.
and the worst thing is not to know or to be up in the air. And
Hmm.
like you'll know if you left the practice if you think if I think you had a good day or not so good of a day, or when you come back the
Right.
next day. And uh, I think one of the key things, at least for me as the head coach of Duke men's basketball and our staff, is also the communication from our staff to our players.
Coach, how would you describe your leadership style or maybe your leadership philosophy as you stepped into this role?
Well, I think the first thing when you talk about leadership is when you're in that role, it's about serving. Like it's not about yourself. And
Hmm.
I've been fortunate to see, you know, one of the best leaders in the world up close, and Coach K. It was always about others around him, the way he treated people, the way he was there for them. And so that's really the most important thing for me. Like you have to, in order to serve, you have to care. Like I care about my guys on the team, care about our staff, and then I know no other way but to be direct. That doesn't mean you're yelling that all the time. That doesn't mean, although there's moments for it where you have to show your
Hmm.
passion. To me, it means you're telling the truth, whether they want to hear it in that moment or not. And
Yeah.
I've been really fortunate. Takes work, but also to build some really trusting, good relationships where you can have those times of growth come from direct confrontation. And
Hmm.
confrontation doesn't matter if the other person isn't willing to hear it. And so for
Hmm.
me, I think if you saw me coach on a day-to-day basis, I think any of our players would tell you, to the point, direct. May not bat 1,000. I don't think any of us do,
Sure.
but you know where my intentions are coming from, which I think is the
Hmm.
most important thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, at some level, to me, it's so important. That level of clarity is what is a little bit of the word I'm hearing, Coach. Right? That you create a tremendous sense of love and connection, but clarity relative to the feedback that you're providing your guys. I'm sure consistently, right, through spending time with them.
Clarity is key,
Yeah.
and the worst thing is not to know or to be up in the air. And
Hmm.
like you'll know if you left the practice if you think if I think you had a good day or not so good of a day, or when you come back the
Right.
next day. And I think one of the key things, at least for me as the head coach of Duke men's basketball and our staff, is also the communication from our staff to our players. So it's
Hmm.
one thing for me just to be saying something, but it's another thing if the staff isn't echoing the same message. And so
Sure.
the amount of time it takes for our staff to communicate, be on the same page, attack different issues with our players, we want them hearing the same message. We have a
Hmm.
saying in our program. It's one vision. It's
Love it.
not my vision. It's not your vision. It's our vision, and it's one vision. And that means we're
Hmm.
doesn't mean we agree all the time. That's you
Sure.
can that's okay, but you do have to respect when a coach is telling you something or a teammate is telling you something. You have to respect where they're coming from, and then we got to get there where we are on the same page.
Yeah, yeah, no, I love it. From the outside looking in, right? You played at Duke. You're a star at Duke. You joined Coach K's staff. You're a successor at 34 years old. But you faced some adversity along your journey. Can you kind of help me? People see people when they get to this moment, but what they don't see is all the work that it took to get to where you are. And I know you've had some challenges along the way. Maybe you can share that a little bit.
Yeah, I'll never forget. Like along the way, really through my entire basketball career, I'm not going to take you all the way back to fourth or fifth grade, but I remember going to play. Well, I guess I am because I'm starting to talk about it. But in fourth and fifth grade, I go to Orlando for the first time, AU Nationals, get to play against the best players in the world, and my team lost every game. Like I was the biggest guy in the team. I was a center, guarding guys like 6 inches taller than me. Uh, got our butts kicked, and
Right.
I think back to, my freshman year of high school. We go downstate. I missed the game winning shot to go to the state championship, and I'm on the floor, in front of the newspaper, crying while the other team is celebrating. I think back to my freshman year at Duke. I thought we were going to win 4 national championships. It was always a dream of mine to be in one shining moment. The video that comes on
Hmm.
right after the
Hmm.
tournament, and
Sure.
Luther Vandross, and anyway, And my first time being in one shining moment was having a game winner hit over me. We got upset in the first round of VCU, and I'm watching the tournament afterwards, and that was my first time. And so,
Wow.
again, been fortunate to be a part of later a state championship, national championship. I had a professional career that started off with getting mono in the pre-draft process. Lost about 15 pounds. Gained some weight back and signed with Miami Heat in Summer League. My second game with them, I got poked in the eye and lost all the vision in my right eye immediately. I regained partial vision the next day, and to this day, I haven't regained any since. I'm legally blind in my right eye. So I played 3 years professionally with one good eye with having vision in it. But I can tell you that the thing that I never lost along the way was belief. Like, I always
love it.
believed that my team was supposed to win. I don't care who we were playing or what the circumstances were. That's something I've always just had in me. And that's why I've loved basketball. It's a team sport. It's a sport that's constantly going back and forth. You can turn the ball over and you can get your ass back on defense and get a stop,
Right.
right? Like, it's not
Sure.
in baseball. I would play and I would strike out, and I couldn't wait 3 more innings to get back up to bat. And
Yeah.
so I'm proud of the journey more so than the results, because along the way, as you know, Molly, like with the journey, it says a lot about your character and the growth that you made. And I feel I've made a lot in my life and my career in this short time span.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're just getting started, right? I know that's probably how you think, right? I mean, it's awesome to be where you are. It's an exciting opportunity, but you're just getting started. At what point in your career, from a coaching perspective, did you sort of think, I'm ready? I can take this job over. I can lead this team and this prestigious university's program. I can do this. At what point did you feel that way?
It was, I would say, first of all, that's a great question. I've never been asked that before. And I think you can feel you're ready when you're standing on the sidelines. But when you're really in the mix of preparing to be a head coach, you realize what makes you ready or doesn't make you ready. And, the pandemic was a big thing for me in my life. For all of us, by the way. I'm not getting into
Sure.
that aspect. But
Right.
what it did for me is every day I spent time, I hired a consultant, a coaching consultant, where we dove into my weaknesses and blind spots as a coach, my strengths. We mapped out what a potential staff would look like for me. I did mock interviews. I developed my own offensive playbooks and defensive playbooks, and really just try to imagine myself, what would I do here? And the next year I did a couple of head coaching interviews, didn't get the jobs. The following year I did a couple more, missed out on them. And then a month later, Coach K said he was retiring, and Duke opened a search. And that season before I did those interviews, and then Coach K said he was retiring, I felt ready. Like, I just felt ready. I didn't think it would be at Duke, because I was told that would never happen, and you had to go somewhere else first. But I felt ready to become a head coach. And then going through the interview process here, I just felt like I knew it as well as anybody. That didn't mean I knew it more necessarily, but I knew it as well as anybody, what it takes to be successful at Duke, because of my timing, because of the opportunity with coaching here the last 10 years, which is, the game has evolved so much.
Sure.
I felt very confident with this opportunity.
Well, and I've heard you talk about how you want to show up and coach and be and lead the way you authentically are, right? And I love that, right? Because there's so many people that are like, whoa, how are you filling Coach K's shoes? Are you going to do things like him? No, I'm going to be me and lead and show up like me. Where do you think that comes from inside of you?
Molly, I would just say I've always been pretty secure in who I am. Like, I know who I am. I know who I'm not. And you mentioned my leadership style. I should have said the first and most important thing is to be authentic, because
Yeah.
if anybody feels you're not being yourself, you've already lost. Like, it's
Yeah.
over. And
Sure.
I find myself, this is such a unique transition, succeeding Coach K, and he's been a huge role model in my life for a long time. And so in being authentic, I think you can try to show where you're not alike, when in reality, you're going to do a lot of the things that are similar because you grew up under him, as a player and as a coach.
Right.
So
Sure.
I've learned, I don't shy away from a lot of the similarities too, because the beliefs and the values that we have, they're pretty much all the same. And that's what I've learned and what I know and believe and want to continue to teach our players. But I think it's natural to want to stand on your own. You can still stand on your own while having similarities. Naturally, there'll be some differences too.
Yeah. And I mean, John, you're the youngest high major coach in the country at a program like Duke. And obviously the college basketball landscape has changed a ton. The transfer portal, NIL, I mean, it's rapidly changing. And what are some of the ways, though, that I would imagine this has been an advantage for you as you step into this role?
Well, I feel there's an advantage with being able to connect. I played recent enough, and I was a good player where I can get out there on the floor and have a different type of connection with our players. But also far enough removed, I'm not trying to be a player anymore. Like that's not. I'm trying.
I'm sure you post them up a little bit, don't you?
Yeah, well, every now and then.
Just show them I still got a little something, man.
Yeah, I still have to get out there and beat them in some shooting games, or once in a while, some one-on-one, which isn't a good game for me against our guys anymore. I need other players on the court to help.
Yeah.
But that definitely has been a big advantage for me. I'm not saying I listen to the same music, because I don't, but being able to relate it in a different way is something that has been an advantage. I think the tough part with it is you can want to be liked when you're a younger coach. And, I'll never forget, I had the privilege of spending a little time with Sean McVay. And, I've really admired him, what he's done at a young age in the NFL. And he said he had to really learn how to have direct communication, direct feedback. And that doesn't mean, look, it's the cost of leadership. You're going to be not liked at times, or someone's not going to like what you have to say, but they will respect if you're telling them the truth at the end of the day. And that's something that doesn't just happen overnight, but I do feel I've really put a lot of time and energy into not just, again, caring, connecting, relating is important. That's so important, but you also have to give them direct feedback when they need it the most.
Do you think it's important as a leader to have non-negotiables?
Yes. There has to be, not on everything. Like I am big on our players having ownership for the outcome of the season, the team. Oftentimes through a practice, I'll just call out to our leadership, like, where are we at? Like, what are we doing? But as far as the way we play, how we live off the court, of course, there are non-negotiables with the way we represent our program, represent ourselves, and telling each other the truth, but not a lot. I'm more along the lines of less is more. Like if you have 15 things and your players can only name 7 of them, all right, we probably have too many things. But I'd rather have, 2, 3, 4, depending on the year. Last year we had 4 of them, and here's what we're going to do.
Yeah, I love it. As you look back at your first year as head coach, what were some of the lessons? What are the things that you're pulling from last season that you would say, you know what, I'm tweaking this season, the way I show up as a leader with my guys, all of that?
It's a great question, Molly. And for me, it starts with, what did I learn? It starts with myself, our staff, our team. We're a tough group. We went through a ton of adversity last year. We 2 of our best players got hurt in the preseason. Actually, a third went down for a shorter period of time, got knocked back throughout the year, and really stuck together. and had a great run to end the season with an ACC championship. We lost in the NCAA tournament sooner than we would have liked. We would have liked to make a run and had a chance to win the whole thing. But I was really proud of the mental fortitude that our team showed, our program showed. That to me is what Duke is all about. Duke basketball is all about as well. And then as far as there's some basketball things I could get into of the way we defend, offense, defense. There's always a deep analysis we take and build on. But for me, it's the mindset. You know, I wanted us to be the aggressors more. I felt like we reacted. And this spring, this summer, this fall, this preseason, we've talked a lot more about being the aggressors. Like, we're going to be the ones that dictate the way this game is played. And that to me is a big lesson from last year.
Yeah, you know, it's to me, I think so often, and you hear coaches talk about this, athletes talk about, you learn more sometimes from the tough moments than the great ones, right? And what's your process relative to, is it the same after you win as after you lose, after a great season, after a not so great? Because to me, one of the things I think coaches, the best coaches, do well is they recover from adversity really fast, and they get their guys to do the same. How do you do that after a win, after a loss? What's your approach?
I am so quick to move on. Like I have, you know, I was taught here when I was 17 years old, you have to have next play mentality. And I always have next play mentality. Now, that doesn't mean you're not learning the lesson from the game. You know, we'll always watch film. Most of the time, we'll always give feedback unless it's a unique case where we have to move on quickly. I'll always analyze myself before analyzing the staff, team, players, because I hope I never change. Like, I always, if you're not looking in the mirror, you know, with how you can get better, something's wrong. But it's next play. I don't care if it's a win. I don't care. Look, the honest answer is that losses stay with you longer. You know, like after wins, you're, not to say I wasn't happy, like I was happy, but losses, I wish it wasn't this way, but they stay with you. And so you have to force yourself to have next play and to move on. And it's not where you put all losses over here, all wins over here. I think each one is its own story. But I don't take losing well.
You got to,
I don't know how else to say it to you. I don't.
Well, I mean, I think oftentimes people, you know, what motivates guys is sort of the fear of losing, I think, sometimes more than the desire to win. You know, you get different answers from guys, but it feels like a lot of times you hear, I just don't want to lose.
And for me, I'm sorry, Molly.
Yeah, no, please.
For me, I think that's a tendency you can have in this job, is a fear of losing, particularly following Coach K. And when I found out I was getting the job, I promised myself two things. I promised myself, first of all, I was always going to follow my instincts and be authentically me, which you brought up and made an amazing point with. Like, I would never be able to live with myself if I wasn't me. And then the second thing was, I was not going to play to lose. Like, you cannot play to lose. I was going to play. I want to hit a home run. I want to hit a grand slam. There are times you got to hit singles too. A bunt to get on base. However you have to win, I'm not going to play to not strike out or to because you've already, I made this comment to you before, you've already lost. And so for me, it's not the fear of losing, but it's the drive to want to win all of them. And even though if that's not realistic or tough to do, you still strive for that.
Yeah. Well, you know, I played tennis at Michigan State, John, and whenever I would show up for a match and play not to lose, you start pushing the ball. I know you and your guys got into tennis a little bit this offseason, I heard.
We did.
And you can't show up and sort of play not to lose. You start pushing the ball and you get crushed, right? So I'm sure the same transcends sport.
By the way, I have so much more respect for tennis players after getting out on the court and trying to, are you kidding me? How easy you guys make it look? Like, that is, I've already switched to pickleball, Molly. Like, I'm done.
Have you? Yeah. Well, hey, pickleball's pretty awesome too, man. I have too. I feel like a little bit of a traitor, but it's an absolute blast. It's a blast. Tell me this, do you have, I would imagine, what are some of your go-to sort of team building tools, if you will, as a leader to keep your guys connected? You know, Tom Izzo, a dear friend, always says a player-led team's better than a coach-led team. And so I would imagine sort of getting your guys connected is huge. What are some of the go-tos that you lean into?
Well, it started this summer. We did a lot of teams take foreign tours. You know, they'll play games and do foreign tours. We did a tour, but we did it in the country, and we didn't even play any basketball. We did a Brotherhood CO tour. We went to Chicago this summer for a weekend. We did basically all team bonding and really let our guys spend time together. We had former players come back from our national championship team in 2015
awesome.
to talk about what it meant for them to win, how they came together. We had different speakers, different leaders in the Chicago community, talk to them about finance, about community and giving back, somebody from the world of private equity, and just giving them the space to be them and learn about each other. And then we've done something the last 2 years. A good friend of mine, his name is Mike Posner. He's a music producer, music artist. Mike has gone into a lot of different things. He's summited Mount Everest. He walked across America, but he also is big on meditation, does Wim Hof breath work. And he's come to Duke the last 2 years. We've done the breath work as a team, and it's brought out incredible emotion from a lot of our guys, different emotion. And they've really opened up with each other, with us, and that's been an amazing thing that we've done. And we'll continue to do that with Mike.
How do you motivate your guys on a consistent basis day to day relative to keeping them inside of the vision and fully engaged and motivated in a world where so many of these young guys, there's so many distractions?
I think that's the $1 million question. Like, I think you bring up such a great point, because there's more than ever, anybody, this isn't just our players, this is for anybody, the tendency is to be in such a rush. And there's such an expectation for college basketball players to have instant success, to move on to the NBA quickly, when in reality, the NBA is harder to get into than ever.
Yeah.
Nobody has ever had instant success. Now, again, like Zion Williamson, all right, he had instant success, but he had times in the preseason, like, he got knocked back. Everybody has to change when they go to college. Just like when you turn professional, you have to change. And so the first thing is just reminding them to stay present. Stay present.
Yeah.
Don't go to where you want to be a year from now. Don't go to where you were. Like, you can't say, all right, this worked when I was here, or, well, that doesn't mean it's going to work when you're here. And then the second thing is, try to keep things fresh. You know, like our guys, if you do the same thing over, now again, we do four-man shell over and over again. There are habits you have to build.
Sure.
But the way we do it, what we're showing, what we're talking about, I love to use examples from different sports. You know, so before practice, often from the weekend, I'll show a football clip from the NFL or for college football. I'll show a clip from us in the past, Duke basketball, last year, the year before. But just the more we can put different things in their mind and different message, really almost for every practice, I think the better it's been for our team.
How do you build the leadership skills, if you will, with your guys, right? I mean, maybe it's your approach to picking captains, which I think just happened, right? Tell me a little bit about how you get them to step up and lead as well.
Well, it's harder for guys to communicate now directly. You know, they don't talk as much. They talk, they joke around, but you know, they text all the time, they snap all the time. It's a little different culturally than when I was coming through as a player or before me. And so really embracing each other and giving them confidence to speak their mind. Like, end of the day, okay, so your good friend Tom Izzo, I agree with Coach Izzo 100%. Player-led teams are definitely better, but you only get player-led teams if there's ownership and direct accountability. And it can't be just the coach. And so I often, throughout the course of a practice, you'll see some days where I'm on them every possession, and then other days I'll sit back a little bit and give them the opportunity and see if that's happening. And so they have to see what it looks like, though. And so I try
Yeah.
to set the tone for that. And our guys have really, it's taken them over a year. But I think where I've felt recently, we're really starting to embrace that and develop that from our leadership perspective. Our three captains, Ryan Young, Jeremy Roach, Tyrese Proctor, are great with that. Uh, and it doesn't mean you're yelling all the time. It means
Yeah.
you're just, it could be, Molly, there was a great play. But the direct feedback and communication to me is everything.
Yeah. This job is consuming. I mean, what you are navigating and it's so consuming. How do you take care of yourself? How do you maintain perspective and have healthy outlets?
Year one, when I was judging myself after the year, evaluating myself, I did not do as good of a job with this. And
Okay.
what I found out when I exercise, I'm a totally different person. I think we
Yeah,
all are. And
totally.
if I wait to exercise in the day, it's not going to happen. It just isn't going to happen. Like I can tell you,
I'm with you.
I don't care if I schedule it at 2 o'clock or if something's going to come up. It's going to be with one of our players. It's going to be our team. My mind gets distracted. And so I make sure I have a routine with one of our strength coaches. Me and him get up 3 days a week. We lift religiously Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If we have to, depending on the schedule, it'll be 6 a.m., 6:30 a.m. We're getting it in. Like I'm a different
Yeah.
person. And
Yeah.
then the best thing for me is to spend time with my kids. It's,
Yeah.
but without my phone. And so I don't have a job that's 9 to 5 or that turns off when you go home. I make sure I take the time when I walk in the door and then the time before bed. I like to take an hour from dinner to bedtime where I am just with my kids. Like that is
That's
it. They have
awesome.
my attention. I try to put them down for bed. Even if I have to go back, I'd rather be home, put them down for bed, have that moment with them. And then, because if you're half in, half out, you don't feel good. You're not doing this. You're not
Totally.
taking care of work and you're not with your kids. It is, look, they're the most special ages, Molly. 5, 4, and
Yeah. Ah,
1.5. This
awesome.
is going to fly by. I try to enjoy
Yep.
every single moment I can with the three of them.
Yeah. Yeah. My mom always says it's the days that drag, it's the years that fly by
Amen.
with
Yeah.
kids. But hey, yeah, you can't get it back. So I love that level of intentionality. I always think it's not about balance in the world anymore. It's about alignment and intention and clarity. And then we can ensure that we're living into our values,
Yes.
right? And so that's such a gift for your kids. So listen, I want to honor your time. I'm going to hit you with some rapid fire.
Great.
And then one last one. So what's your morning routine? You just touched on working out, but anything else?
No, I get up early. I get my lift in. I'll get my notes together for the day. I always like to. I try to get a shower just to one be clean, Molly, but most importantly to be refreshed. That's
To
good
get
to know that I
wake
shower. I
up.
bet. I'm sure you're relieved now.
What's your favorite leadership book?
Ooh, that's a great question. So I have a couple like personal ones. Like I love General Murray Dempsey as a book that I love. Uh, but a book that really impacted me is Start With Why by Simon Sinek.
Sure.
It really changed my perspective on the order of things as you. I know it's rapid fire, but I would say that book
Yeah.
that
Okay.
changed my perspective on things from a leadership
That's
standpoint.
awesome. That's awesome. What's your best piece of leadership advice?
Uh, I'll give you something that I learned when I was young, and it's stayed with me ever since. But you got to believe before anything. And I learned from Coach K, failures are never your destination. It's like you can you can have all the adversity in the world. You still have to believe that you're going to win. It's the Stockdale theory,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
that to me is the inner belief that you're still going to win is the most important thing.
All right. So your dream starting five, right? Like anyone, anytime, right? Your dream starting five. Who do you got?
Starts with Michael Jordan for me.
Okay.
LeBron James, absolutely. Kobe Bryant, absolutely.
Sure.
I want the best shooter of all time, is Steph Curry, in there. He's also the same year as me, so I always have love for Steph and KD. They're keeping me young while they're still playing. I'm coaching. And then I do want a rim protector and somebody to complement those guys. And I'm going to go with Kareem. Yeah, I'm going to go
There
with
you go.
Kareem.
Oh, wow. Okay, wow. All
All-time
right.
leading scorer besides LeBron. And
Yeah,
if he was in today's day and age, he'd be blocking shots, he'd be shooting threes, running the floor.
yeah,
But
sure.
that's my five.
I love it. All right, so the show's called Game Changer. So who and what is a game changer who inspires you and why?
It's my mom. It's my mom. Ever since I was young, her and my dad have been there every step of the way. But her passion and fire is what's really she's passed down to me, and the ability to believe in yourself, and the ability to believe in myself when times have been the hardest. She's been that person for me, and she's had an amazing passion for helping others, but also this special wisdom that has really been remarkable for me to see, just how she can touch others, but also have a feel for people, which is to me what this whole thing is about, is having a feel for people. So it's my mom, no question.
I love it. Well, she's got to be proud watching you now.
She better be, Molly. I don't know what.
She's right. She's right. I'm sure she keeps you fired up, right? You got to now. Now the next thing, Mom wants you to win it all. Which
Exactly. She's on me.
listen, I bet. I bet. All right. Well, listen, we'll be cheering for you. Thanks for taking a minute, and appreciate what you do and how you lead and who you are. Thanks so much.
Molly, thanks for having me.